All right, we're going live with the Purpose Maker. My guest today is Emily Stapleton.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for joining me for a conversation today. We got a good one today. We're going to get into a lot of stuff. We're going to talk about life, midlife, which both of us are in.
Yep.
We're going to talk about health, detox, a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So I've got a little intro here. So Emily began her health journey earlier than most. She had some complications around 10 years old. And traditional medicine was definitely something that the family believed in, but you didn't get a lot of answers from that.
That's correct.
So, and you're young, so you couldn't really control what happened to you at 10. But later on, you started to figure some things out. So take that story over from there. Kind of give me an understanding of what was happening at 10 and then how you progressed.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of people listening to your podcast and in general, people tend to resonate with my story because it resonates with their story in that I found holistic medicine after traditional medicine and everything else basically failed me. It was kind of like my last stop. And to your point, having, for me, it was a lot of digestive issues that I had at the age of 10. And it's just very confusing. And when it's like, well, no, my friends don't seem to have these issues. Like, what's going on with me?
What's going on,
and,
sure.
And so to just kind of continuously be told, like, you're fine, everything's okay. And then it wasn't until about like my mid-20s where I actually finally discovered a holistic healing and health. And that literally was the moment that changed my life. I was in like 24, 25.
Sure.
And literally it was one of those moments that we would call a pivotal moment because everything from then on was just never the same when I discovered true root cause holistic healing. And it was just incredible. So I began to do meditation and yoga. Fast forward to a few years after that, now I'm a meditation and yoga teacher. I'm a health coach. I'm a brain coach. You start to have this experience and everything changes. You just can't go back.
Yep.
You just can't go back.
It changes you.
I truly credit holistic healing to saving my life 100%.
Do you remember what the final diagnosis ended up being?
So I had IBS, dysbiosis. I had a really bad parasitic infection, candida. It was just
combination.
A lot of things, right? Combination of things happening, in my gut. And so taking it step by step to just, one thing at a time, address that and heal that. And then, but the cool thing about it is so quickly did I see
improvements,
relief. Yes. It was almost immediate. And so that was really what kept me going, and I was a believer right away.
So then how did you start getting into the world of coaching, teaching doctors, teaching lay people?
Yeah.
Getting this message out?
Yeah. Well, I knew at a very young age, I love sales. I love people. I love just being around people. And I also loved medicine. I also love holistic medicine. I was like, how do I make this into something that will truly drive a purpose for me? Because I just knew I couldn't be an individual that would go to work every day and not like what I did. I just can't do that. I have to be able to wake up and feel fortunate to do what I do every day.
That's a good feeling.
It's the best feeling. Yeah. And that's how I have felt the last 11 years that being at Orthomolecular Products, which is where I work. That's my full-time job. And so it actually was, I believe, sort of a divine intervention because I was at a point in my life at that time where I was in a job that was not fulfilling me. I was in a brokerage job and it was something, but I knew this was not it.
It wasn't your calling.
It was not my calling.
Yeah.
And so I just, to this day, it was like a divine thing where Orthomolecular, they reached out to me and we had a conversation and I'm like, this is what I have been waiting for. This is what I've been praying for. Like, come on. And it was it. And I never looked back and it's just been incredible ever since.
I love that kind of stuff. And that fits right into what we talk about here a lot on the Purpose Maker is finding that deep meaning and purpose in your life and working with it.
I do want to add to that because there may be some people who might resonate with this is that I was at one of the lowest moments I've ever been in before this happened. Like I still remember it so clearly. I mean, I wasn't making a ton of money. I was just lot of depression, a lot of anxiety, a lot of truly struggle with my purpose and my identity. I was like, what am I doing? And it was one of the lower moments. And then it was like, that was when it happened. I just had to hold on a little bit longer, and then it just...
Things started to come together.
Yeah. So...
That's a great feeling.
Yeah.
So one of our topics today is going to be detox. Okay. There's different levels of detox. There's alcohol detox. There's drug detox. Like, these are facilities that do that. We're not going that deep, right?
Right.
We're talking more detoxing from a chemical lifestyle, stuff that's in our cosmetics, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly right. Yeah.
Okay. So then what does a detox mean to a patient that is struggling with some, or let's start with that. What health issues do we see that somebody needs to consider a detox?
Mm-hmm. So, okay, so some of the health issues would be if you have estrogen dominance. So from a hormonal standpoint, if you have symptoms of estrogen dominance, if you have PMS, if you have a lot of breast tenderness, anxiety and depression, actually an underlying root cause of anxiety and depression can be...
Which is a hormonal imbalance.
Absolutely.
Yep.
If you find that you are someone who gets very jittery after you drink caffeine, you may have some disturbances in your liver detoxification pathways, chronic fatigue, insomnia. There are so many different things. I mean, when I really look at our society as a whole, no matter where you live in the country, but especially if you are around places where there are, if you're in a farm like the Midwest, or like where there's a lot of farmland, pesticides, herbicides, every person's unique exposure to toxins will make them uniquely susceptible to getting, some of these kind of chronic conditions. I can't think of a person out there who shouldn't
do a detox.
Look at their liver, but definitely some of those top things are usually what people experience.
Well, one of the questions we got emailed in this morning before we got started here, how often should somebody consider doing a detox?
So that is a great question. It's also very individualized. You'll probably find with a lot of my answers and our conversation today that it's never really a one size fits all. I know that we'd love to hear that. It would be so great. I have the magic pill today, everyone. No. But so typically, generally speaking, probably 2 to 3 times a year.
That's
a good 7 to 14, whatever you can kind of manage, detox, where you're really looking at your overall toxin exposure, taking targeted products. And we'll talk about those different things that will really support the different phases of detoxification properly in your liver. But it just depends. I mean, and there are different quizzes and tests and things like that. You can even get a 23andMe. There are labs. If you want to know your individualized kind of ability to detoxify and also your just overall exposure, there are different tests and things that a person can take to determine that, but generally 2 times a year.
What about the person that says, my liver was designed to detox, I don't need to do one?
Which is whoever says that, you are 100% correct. Because your liver right now, as we're sitting here doing this podcast, our livers are like, let's go, we got to get these toxins out. Now, a couple things to consider about that though is that it all depends on, I would say, 2 primary things. Number 1 would be your overall toxic burden, which means, what is your lifestyle like? Do you consume water, which unfortunately I have to right now, but in plastics, right? Your plastic exposure. What is your overall exposure to toxins? And we can talk about that specifically if you want. But then the second is, do you have what we call genetic SNPs? And some people, and again, you can do a 23andMe. There's ways to test your genetic predisposition to struggle with detoxification. So for some folks who are like, but my liver is it's doing it for me. You actually don't know that for sure. Unless you can tell
unless you test.
Don't. Right. So that's why when I mentioned, if you are someone, if you don't detoxify medications well, if you have a lot of adverse side effects, if you have issues with you kind of get a little sick around perfumes, certain smells. If you don't detoxify caffeine, you get jittery. Those are some indications. If you have hormone imbalances, such as estrogen dominance, it could be that your liver, guess what? It's struggling. And it isn't able to really do everything in the most efficient manner as we would like it to do. So it's just that we're in a day and age now in 2025 where our livers are like, whoa, we have a lot of income.
We're exposed to a lot
coming in. This is exactly what we're hearing with red dye number 3. That's a great example. That's one of many examples. You look at other countries, they don't allow the things that we allow in our food supply, in our skincare products. I've been over to Europe and I've seen specifically on the farms over there how they make some of their skincare products. It is nothing like we have it in our country. So we're constantly exposed to toxins. And so I would love it if our livers could do it on their own, but they oftentimes struggle to do so.
Sure, especially if somebody has like you said, a genetic predisposition to not being able to do that. We understand this from a heavy metal standpoint. Like we understand the body can't always get rid of heavy metals. I've had a lot of patients go through chelation therapy to work on getting rid of some of those with great results.
Yeah.
So how does a detox program work? So if somebody's listening and they're like, she just listed me, right? I struggle with half the things she's saying. What does a detox program do? Are you doing it for 1 month? You doing it for 6 months? What's the time frame? All that kind of stuff.
So the time frame really is, I'd say 2 things to that. The first would be if you and we do taking one of those toxicity kind of questionnaires, to see your overall toxic burden. If you have a really high number on this particular questionnaire, I'm thinking I might need to go for about a month or 2. If you have a lower number, maybe you only need to go for 7 or 14 days. It really just depends.
Is that the one you emailed to me?
Yes.
Yeah. So I'll put a link on this podcast so somebody could take that quiz.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we have our options at just 7 and 14 days because we appreciate that most people initially just kind of want to dip their toe in the water. So if you are listening, if you've never done a detox, or maybe if you've had a bad experience, just starting slowly for 7 days and maybe working your way up to 14, and to, maybe a whole month. It really just depends on the person.
Sure. So you score high on that quiz, and then you say, okay, I'm not functioning well, I'm not feeling well, medication's not getting it.
Yeah.
Then you should consider doing the detox. Okay. So what happens in a detox? You said sometimes people might not feel good.
I really want to talk about that because sometimes I struggle with the word detox because it is a buzzword. And a lot of people, so I do work with clinicians. That's what I do 99% of the time. But the one kind of opportunity I do get to speak directly to patients is when I do detox classes. Right. One of the things that I hear from people is like, oh, I did this detox. I felt so terrible. And it was just something that they found online, or it was like a juice cleanse or something along. Okay. It is so critical that when you do a detox, and I'm going to refer to it as biotransformation, because that's really what is happening with the Core Restore program that we have, that we offer, that I'm talking about today.
Sure.
There is a very specific way that your liver takes toxins from the starting point in your fat cells, which for those of you who don't know, your toxins are stored in your fat cells. So one of the things when you asked me earlier about, okay, so how does someone know if they need to do a detox? Well, if you struggle to lose weight, or even just maintain a healthy weight, one of the foundational causes could be that you just really have an overburden of toxins. Why is that? Because your body is always looking out for you, and it will store your toxins in your fat cells. So
the heavier you are, the more toxins you are carrying.
Absolutely, 100%.
Yep.
And so in order for you to feel maybe like, because people can actually feel very sick when they go on detoxes if they're not done in a proper way. Because the toxins leave your fat cells when you begin to stimulate that beautiful biotransformation process with certain nutrients, which, by the way, if your liver is detoxifying on your own right now, so that the person who is like, oh, my liver is going to do it on its own, absolutely it will, if you give it the right nutrients. There are nutrients that are literally required for the functioning of your liver to properly take the toxin, the bad guy, out of your fat cells and get it out, and through elimination via urine or stool. So there is a very specific 1, 2, 3. There are 3 processes.
So here's my question. when you break down a fat cell, does that toxin go into the bloodstream?
It absolutely, yes.
Which is why somebody could feel bad.
That's absolutely
Yeah.
why someone can feel bad. So this is why sometimes when people also, when they lose weight, they can feel a little sick sometimes. If there's a quick weight loss, you know, we see a lot of the Ozempics and Wegovys, and people are losing weight very considerably. By the way, that can lead to fatty liver. That is someone
that's a
who's
scary
listening.
one.
Like you definitely have to get on a liver cleanse because you got to get that extra fat dump out of the liver, and you know, but the toxins, to your point, will get into the bloodstream, which is why you really want to make sure that the nutrients that you are taking are specifically upregulating the first pathway, the second pathway, and the third pathway. Otherwise, they will stay in your bloodstream and you will not feel well. That's not good for you.
We got to touch on the GLP-1s real quick.
Yeah.
Because that's an interesting thing. GLP-1s, which is going to be your Ozempic, Wegovy, that kind of stuff. The FDA has put what's called a boxed warning. It used to be a black box warning. And that's the highest warning the FDA puts on a medication because of the chances of causing a side effect. They now call that a box warning. Most of my patients listening probably don't know that. So the reason that it's so high on the warning is it like quadruples thyroid cancer. And so you're talking fatty liver, thyroid stuff. There's a real balance between the concerns of obesity causing health issues, using a GLP-1 to reduce the weight, and then learning how to actually stay off of it. Because the side effects, we don't even know how bad they're going to be yet, right? I mean, this medication is very new. And I think the last numbers I read, 62 million people are taking it.
That sounds very accurate.
That's a lot of people. And in my mind, because in healthcare, you think through things sometimes different because you know a little bit more. But in my mind, that's 62 million guinea pigs. Like, that's kind of how I feel about that because we don't have the long-term studies yet.
Right.
We don't know. I mean, we have long-term studies enough to know it's causing thyroid problems. So that kind of scares me. But I also have a midlife wisdom weight loss class. One of the things that I say in that class is fat storage. Fat is basically potential energy. That's what it is. But then it takes on its own, it becomes its own beast once a certain percentage of the body becomes that, because like you said, it starts to store things. One of the things I kind of think about it is it disrupts hormones. Extra fat does a lot of hormone disruption. So, and I used to be overweight. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah, I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
so this is a very personal conversation.
Yeah.
In my weight loss class, I actually put my overweight pictures. The only place I show it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so if somebody takes that, they actually see it.
Yeah.
So they get to say, hey, you know what? He struggled.
Yeah.
So I know that struggle very, very well.
Yeah.
So it's spring, right? Beginning of spring.
Finally,
we need it, especially up here. We had a good winter. Would a detox be a good thing to put in to your springtime routine?
This is a really good time. If anyone is familiar with Ayurvedic medicine, spring just is a good time for your body to just do a lot of cleansing. I mean, we all have a term for it as Americans and probably around the world, spring cleaning. We spring clean our homes.
Yeah.
So it is a good time to just really support your liver. You know, a lot of the heavier foods we tend to eat in the winter, that also kind
Darker
of slows
months.
down too.
Yeah,
Right.
for sure.
So it's a good time, a little bit more like the broths and the soups and the lighter things. And by the way, like the detox that I'm referring to, a biotransformation, there's plenty of food that you can eat, you know, on it. It's just the spring is a good time. Your body tends to just be a little bit more open and receptive and ready to just clear some things out. It's a great time to do it. And we know not many people are going to want to do it mid-July. So.
Right. Yeah, no, you're right. Middle of summertime.
Yeah.
And if you live up here, summers are wild, right? They're just busy.
Amazing. Yeah.
So springtime's a really good time. So let's say someone says, all right, this is me. I need to do this. I'm overweight. I have some of those symptoms. I'd like to start doing things. They order the box. They open it. How do you start? Like, what's going on? Is there?
Yeah. So for those of you who like structure, which a lot of people enjoy structure, to start out, there's a patient guide, and so it literally takes you open up the booklet, and we have an electronic version, but also this is the physical booklet.
Okay.
But it takes the patient through every single day what you are going to do on this detox. So literally day one, this is how many scoops of powder, this is how many capsules you take, all the way through day 7, or if you choose to do a 14-day, every single day is laid out.
Is a 14-day just 2 of them?
Yeah.
Okay.
We have a bigger box that fits the 14-day,
Okay.
but it's the exact same thing.
You just extend it.
Yeah.
Yep.
So the goal for the 7 days, and here's the thing, like if you're like, oh, this sounds like if you get a little bit of anxiety even thinking about doing it, like you're in the right spot. It's a little scary thinking about. Most people don't like change. They like their coffee in the morning.
man.
They like their, glass of wine and whatever it is. That
We
you
love our
like,
habits.
You know, we do. So a big part of this biotransformation experience is the confidence builder that it gives you in yourself and your ability to do something you don't want to do. And that will take you everywhere in life. There's no one who wants to start this thing right away. You need to, but you're like, maybe next month, right? But that's really what it does. So what we want to do for the 7 or 14 days is really try to eliminate a lot of the toxins that are coming into your experience of life. So if you use a lot of plastics, how can you avoid plastics?
Sure.
If you use dry cleaning, try to avoid that. There's a lot of chemicals that go onto your skin within
garments.
seconds, get into your bloodstream, and they are toxic. 95% of cancer is diet and environment. That is a CDC statistic. So you have the ability so much to control the toxins that are coming into your life. We talked about chemicals, forever chemicals. Those are big things too. Microwave popcorn. Who didn't grow up on that? I know I did. Those forever chemicals, pizza boxes, they can last in your system without good support for anywhere from 2 to 10 years. And they are directly linked to cancer and other different chronic conditions. So we want to try to avoid that stuff as much as possible during the 7 and 14 days, as well as really just give the body some good anti-inflammatory, kind of like Mediterranean diet style foods, lots of good nutritious food, lots of water, and then of course the actual products that will support all 3 phases of detoxification.
I read something crazy on the microplastics.
Oh,
Microplastics, because that's a big exposure. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in our world is plastic. We don't think about it, but most of our food is packaged in plastic to some extent. IV bags.
Oh, yeah.
They recommend the first 12 milliliters to be tossed. And I just sent this to a buddy of mine. They recommend it only in life-saving instances. That's how much microplastic is coming through an IV bag. And so what's happening, and this is scary, we're starting to see IV vitamins and people doing, I don't know if you call it rehab, or like you work out and they're doing like their recovery and they're doing an actual IV. You're exposing so many microplastics to the bloodstream instantly that it's scary.
That's very scary.
Yep. And I know a lot of my patients aren't doing it because I don't promote it, but somebody listening has seen somebody doing a recovery program where they're doing the IV recovery. This is a weird trend, but there's a vehicle sometimes that people will hire for a wedding, or the wedding. What's the pre-party called?
The pre-party.
Yeah, like when everybody goes out before the wedding. I'm forgetting that.
Yeah, me too. I don't know if I'm thinking of it. Yeah.
So let's say everyone goes out
Like
drinking.
the bachelor parties?
There
Like
you
that?
go.
Oh,
yeah,
those. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, everyone goes out drinking. This van or whatever can come, and everybody can get an IV after a night out.
Yeah.
Right?
Mobile IVs, yeah.
Yeah. So mobile IV. I mean, that's been a thing. The other 2 things I've read that are really fascinating are K cups.
Oh yeah, those are bad.
Those are bad.
Yeah.
So I did see an alternative to that. It's pretty interesting. They make a stainless steel K cup that you can actually just put a scoop of coffee in and then use the stainless steel.
Oh, that's perfect.
Because the heat in the plastic.
The heat in the plastic.
Not
like those
good.
roasted chickens, those big roasted chickens, those are the worst because it's
Those
hot
sitting in the plastic.
That's one of the things that you can do at home is just filter your water and try to replace all of your plastic containers with glass or something like that.
We've done that.
BPA free, phthalate free pans. I mean, you can do
Cutting
a lot.
boards.
Cutting boards.
Yeah.
All of that.
Yeah, all of our cutting boards are wood.
Yeah.
Just for that.
You know, the average umbilical cord blood has over 206 neurotoxins. That's another CDC.
Born.
When they're born. So that just really shows you that we are really being set up to struggle if that's what the average, I mean.
So that's a toxic burden on the mother already.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So now the baby has to try to cleanse that.
Yeah.
Or deal with it, or this is where a lot of symptoms come from.
Right.
Yeah. All right. So someone's ready to take the plunge. They're like, all right, this is me.
Yeah.
I got to do it. We can put a link on the podcast so that they can go and get this product. How hard is that 7 days? Are we talking insane? Are we talking, oh, this is just a little change in my routine? How deep are we going here?
It depends on the person, but I will tell you that some of the most profound experiences that I've heard of are people where this was very different. This was so different from what they normally do. And it was such a big change, but this was the catalyst that literally changed the way that they live their life
about it.
And what they eat, because your experience of sugar and different foods becomes so different because you are eliminating kind of fake sugars, if you will, and traditional sugar.
Them out.
Any real sugars you're going to have are going to come from the fruit that we recommend. So what happens is your taste buds become different, and a carrot's like a Snickers bar. It's like, wow, this was so sweet.
Tastes
I didn't
pretty
even really. Yeah.
Does that booklet have a recommended nutritional guide?
Yeah.
So there's,
all that's in there.
I don't want to say there's no thinking, but we're trying to eliminate the variables.
Yeah, the grocery list, everything is in here.
So it's giving you a roadmap.
A roadmap is there,
to doing it. The first video in my midlife weight loss class is about that identity change. That's what I talk about. And when people are ready to do that, that's when it happens.
That's when it happens.
They completely see themselves differently. They say, you know what? I've been dealing with this for a long time. I'm done. Those transformations are amazing to be part of. And it's different things trigger different people. One of the things that I've learned is knowledge triggers it, which is why speaking like this is amazing, because as people learn more, they're like, oh, I got to do this.
Yeah.
Struggle sometimes, health issues. So my email that went out this morning, we've had a rough month with patients here. I had a patient a couple months ago pass away from a heart attack at 63. Retired for 1 year. We got a call one day.
Oh my
Boom.
gosh.
A couple people terminal cancer. Got another gentleman that's like 64. Just he's been given a year to live. So there's a lot of rough stuff. I think what I've noticed in practice, because this is my 20th year.
Oh wow.
This is crazy, right?
That is crazy.
20 years doing this. People underestimate two things. One, how much they have to take care of their health. And the second one, how much they have to do. They underestimate those. And health will be the top thing you contend with as you get older. Okay? 100%. Because we're dealing with an aging body. And we're trying to maximize this body's function. There's a lot to understand, and food, nutrition, health, obesity, weight. This is the core of that conversation. That's where you have to be focusing your time and energy if you're going to make a big change in your life. Do you have any stories that jump out of people that you remember when?
I mean, there are people who were, kind of struggled with chronic, I don't know if necessarily alcoholism, but just a lot of alcohol use. I've had clinicians tell me that they did this and that was it. That they stopped drinking from just this experience.
Detoxing the liver and getting the body healthy and clean.
And like you said, that identity shift, they must have been ready for it. And they were like, I don't want to live this way anymore, because a lot of times people think they feel good until they do something like this. They're like, oh.
Then they know what feeling good is.
I guess this is what, I have seen in just 7 days, cholesterol numbers go down. Weight loss for sure. Almost everyone who does this will lose weight to some degree. It's really just a lot of it is like the psychological component of just the anxiety goes down, depression goes down, and they just physically have so much more energy, in part because the liver is working better for them, but also because your foods are very likely a contributor to your chronic fatigue. The foods you're eating, if they're inflammatory, they're going to, and so you relieve your body of that burden for 7 or 14 days, and it's like, it's amazing. So
I got a tough one for you. Patient is a vegetarian, probably early 60s, high cholesterol. And they're asking me about it. And I know that somewhat. The way I kind of think about it, 80% of cholesterol is controlled by the liver, 20% by nutrition. How or why is someone high in cholesterol if they're vegetarian?
Well, the precursor to all of your hormones also is cholesterol. So sometimes people who are struggling on a hormonal level, their cholesterol goes up, but also high cholesterol isn't always necessarily a bad thing. I think so it depends on what her specific numbers are.
That's changing. Yeah, they're starting to move those numbers a little, realizing that cholesterol has a lot to do with repair. A lot of cells are built because cholesterol, the base of cholesterol is a fat. That's what it is.
Yeah.
So,
and the particle size and number, that's also very significant as well. Are they oxidized particles? Are they not? Because there's just a deeper conversation about cholesterol than what we typically know. And
would you have high cholesterol with a fatty liver?
You probably would. Yeah. The fatty liver is so common. It basically, if you have high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, and or you're overweight, very likely, statistically speaking, very likely will probably have a bit of fatty liver.
Could you define that a little bit so someone understands? I mean, you have a liver, which is part of your natural detox system. What is fatty liver?
I mean, really at the base level of it, it's just excess fat truly building up and
stored.
just like kind of stuck and stored in your liver. And it can lead to some very scary things. It can scar your liver, and it can get to the point where it's to the point of no return, where it just is.
Is that the cirrhosis? Liver cirrhosis? Yeah.
Right. Basically, if your liver goes, you go. That's the way that it is. So, but the thing about it is, there's another product that we have at Orthomolecular, which we are a science-based company, and in the data, there are certain raw materials that have been shown to literally reverse fatty liver. And it is a liver-based product. This will also help too, because some of the raw materials in the PhytoCore product are designed to pull fat out of the liver. So this is going to help with that. But there are natural things out there. Wild Cardoon is the one that I'm referring to. An aged black garlic extract. You can look it up. You can Google it. There are things that will naturally reverse fatty liver for people, but it's a big thing. And there's also data showing that if people do have a quick talked about that with the GLPs, they lose a lot of fat quick. That just gets congested and stored in the liver. There's studies that show that.
Sure.
So we got to just get that out because it can lead to bad things. Lots
of bad things. What happens with the patient that is skeptical of supplementation? And this is always a guy. That stuff's snake oil, right? That's always a man that says that. I've never heard that from a lady because women seem naturally a little bit more tuned into health. My 20 years has told me that a wife will typically come before a husband.
Oh, yeah.
And then the wife leads the family. Like, she takes care of the kids. She might be on her husband to get in or, take care of his health, that kind of stuff. What about those hard people that are like, that stuff doesn't work, supplementation doesn't work?
I would say to that person, I get it. And in some cases, you are 100% right. And because there are a lot of different supplements out there. And regulation can vary, efficacy can vary, the dosage can vary, the manufacturing. If you break down the common denominator, there's so many different things that go into making a quality supplement. However, and so to that person, you're not wrong. There's some supplements out there that probably really aren't doing much.
Most of them on Amazon.
Yeah, Amazon is the Wild West. My goodness, if any of our products are ever on there, they're on there illegally, and we pay very fancy lawyers a lot of money to try to find those people because they're all over the world and try to get them down. But I will tell you guys a quick story. We pulled a bottle of our liquid vitamin D3K2 off of Amazon. not supposed to be on there. We didn't put it there. Someone else did. We pull it back to our lab and we tested it in the lab, and most of it was water. So it was contaminated. So you know what? Like, you just don't know what you're going to get on Amazon. You're taking a gamble.
Right.
But when you do have companies like Orthomolecular that you work with that are the FDA actually does regulate our good manufacturing practices. So we have to make sure that we are abiding by those rules. We have third party testing. If a company does do the right things, they source a good raw material, and they make sure that they manufacture it in a way. For those of you who who would know that fish oil, there are 10 very important steps that go from the actual oil being squeezed out of the fish, literally, to it being in your capsule. There are 10 very important steps that have to happen in a very specific way in order for that oil to be sustainable and to be absorbable.
Sure.
So if all that stuff, but see, you can make a mistake in there, right? So if a company, that's
Just
what
skip
can
step
happen.
7, 8, 9, and 10, and you save some money.
You save some money,
Yeah.
right? So the thing at Orthomolecular that we do differently is basically all of those common denominator things, sourcing. We do that, differently and ethically, and we give certificates of analysis on every single one of our products. Okay, what did they test for? Did it pass? And we manufacture 98% of our products. So, some supplements, they might not work. That's why we guarantee the efficacy of our products, because we know they're going to work, because
Sure.
there's clinical data to support the outcomes. There's
And you
clinical
guys are
data.
doing some of the research.
We're part of some of the research. We have a science team. Dr. Tom Williams is our head of science. He's a PhD. He was a former professor at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. And he really just kind of takes his research and says, all right, let's see which raw material is going to be the best. We recently actually launched, and I know we said the word GLPs. Hey, GLP is a natural peptide hormone in
Sure.
your body.
Yep.
We did launch a product that, because the research showed it was so promising, it does actually support the increase of your natural GLP-1 by 55%. And it's just lemon verbena.
Which would be fine.
Lemon verbena, hibiscus, and decaffeinated green coffee bean. Natural things from Mother Earth that were studied in human clinical trials to increase this. And there's
Well,
about
let's
8
be
pound weight
specific.
loss.
The GLP-1s in the medication form are 100% synthetic.
Yeah.
We got to distinguish that. I don't think people realize that. So you have somebody that's like, oh, I eat all organic, and then they take all these medications that are synthetic. That always is such an interesting dichotomy to me, figuring that out.
And it's a lot too. It's giving your body too much too quickly it is kind of a natural, because it is a synthetic experience. But when you have like these lemon verbenas and hibiscus, your body just increases it naturally. There's no synthetic coming in there. It's just communicating to your body, hey, let's increase that a little bit so that you're a little bit fuller and your cravings go down. And there are no side effects. So if you have clinical data and you have good raw materials and you guarantee that and you manufacture it, and you manufacture like a psycho, as we would say, because we control every single step of the process, you are going to have something that works.
Right. So let's talk about the difference from a nutraceutical and a supplement, because a lot of people are also confused about this. Okay. I will have patients that I educate, which I take a lot of time to learn this stuff. They'll take a picture of a supplement, and they're taking that picture to go try to find it cheaper.
Oh.
That's what they're doing.
Okay.
Right? That's a vitamin D. I'm going to go see if I can get it on Amazon. I'm going to go see if I can get it at Costco, Walmart, whatever.
Yeah.
What's the difference from a regular supplement and a nutraceutical, so people can understand what it does for their health? Because there's a big difference there.
Yeah, there is a big difference.
Yep.
And you can be wasting your money if the supplement, if you don't know for sure. If you buy something from, that's going to be, we guarantee that it's going to work. The difference comes down to the starting raw material. Vitamin D is a very good example. What is the starting raw material? Okay, what is that? And then how is it manufactured? Because again, same thing there too. There's a very specific manufacturing process that has to happen in order for that vitamin D to be stabilized. And if something goes wrong there, then and studies have shown actually in retail settings, they pulled vitamin D off of the shelf and they tested in the lab, none of it met label claim. And all of the capsules had a different amount of vitamin D. Why does that happen? It happens because it wasn't manufactured properly. And so it's starting to degrade. So that's where it's like the Wild West. You're taking a complete gamble on your health. A nutraceutical is different. We hold ourselves to different standards. We literally pay third-party testers to just double and triple check our efficacy.
Take something off the shelf and test them all.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's the difference is, with a nutraceutical, you're not wasting your time. Number one, it's therapeutic. How much fish oil are you taking? How much is in your capsule? You want to take usually 1 to 3 grams per day, depending on your condition. Are you taking 10 capsules to get that amount, or are you taking just maybe 1 to 3?
People don't calculate that.
Yeah.
Yep. So they'll say, "Oh, I found it cheaper," and I said, "Yeah, but you got to take 4 capsules to get the minimum amount, and that bottle's lasting you less than a month."
It also might be not in the correct form. There are different forms of fish oil, as an example. There are different forms of B vitamins. There's different forms of vitamin D. There's so many different forms. And so you may have you got to think too, why is it less money? Like, ask yourself that question. Why is this so cheap? Well, it's very likely because it's going to be a raw material that is not going to be the most absorbable in your body. That can be a total waste of your time. It's not manufactured well because that costs money to manufacture a product well. There's a reason why it's at a lower price point. And so a nutraceutical is going to be therapeutically dosed. For you, that means less capsules. You don't have to take as much to get to the point. We want you to get better faster. People, like I said with my story, I was at the end of my rope. I needed to feel better faster. With nutraceuticals, we're going to get you there a lot faster because things are going to be therapeutically dosed with less capsules. And that's what people want. People want that. So
sure. Well, on the next level of nutraceuticals, the way I think about it is some of the supplements have bovine tissue in it, right? And so that stuff cannot be sold at a store.
Right.
Like, you don't want a thyroid supplement that has bovine thyroid on the shelf at Walmart, because that supplement actually stimulates thyroid function. And if you have a patient that doesn't understand, or a person at Walmart doesn't understand that, they could cause thyroid issues from doing that.
Oh, yeah.
What I try to reiterate to my patients is purchasing supplements at a box store is like buying your hamburger meat at Walmart. I try to give them that idea. It is the cheapest, most unhealthy way to do it. I try to educate. Now, does everyone purchase their supplements through us? Of course not. Like, we have lots of patients that they tell me they're on things, and I just take a deep breath and go, yep, because they're not ready to kind of hear that conversation. But so we have a higher standard on these supplements. What are we expecting from that? Like you said, there's outcomes. We want a therapeutic. Are we going to see changes on the blood test?
Oh, absolutely. Oh my gosh, that's literally guaranteed. That's part of our company money back guarantee. You're going to see changes in your labs. You're going to feel better faster.
Yep. Yeah. Well, the patients that I do have on supplements love them.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a product that we launched recently too. Some of you may be familiar, but magnesium threonate that was shown in clinical trials over the course of 3 months to reverse brain age by 9.6 years.
Is that the Sarah Mag?
Yeah.
I take it every day.
Yeah.
I
it's just amazing, right?
I love it.
Those things are those are things that are unique to.
Yeah, and I talk a lot to magnesium because that's probably the number one deficient nutrient in the human population, and has such a bearing on so many things: brain health, sleep, all that kind of stuff. But is it CeraVe? Is that how you say it?
Yeah, CeraVe.
Yeah. So my wife leads our family's health. She's always ordering this stuff, right? We have a whole shelf of nutraceuticals sitting at home.
Yeah.
But that one I like because it's got a little flavor, but it's not overpowering. So I always put it in a little mixer, a little shaker bottle. And I used to like to have a little bit of iced tea, like the powdered iced tea. That would be like my favorite little mix.
Yeah.
But then last year I stopped drinking that because it was high in sugar.
Yeah.
I was looking, I'm like, man, that's really high in sugar. Even though I would taper it, so I wasn't doing the full scoop, I was still like, you're getting 15, 20 grams of sugar, even making this half of what it's supposed to be. Switched over to magnesium probably about 2 months ago. I love it.
Oh, good.
Yep.
Isn't it so good?
It's great.
It tastes so good.
Yes.
Yeah.
I got the mixed berry. Is that the only?
Right now, it's the only flavor, but yeah. And by the way, the detox flavors are French vanilla and chocolate.
Okay. You have a choice?
You have a choice, yeah. You can do either or.
Okay.
Yep, it is an organic brown rice protein. For those who are wondering, there's 8 grams of fiber, which is really good.
Yep.
The sweetener is called Reb M, and all that is it's a fermented cane sugar. So, but it is a zero. It doesn't change your blood sugar.
No
So
glycemic
there's
index.
no glycemic. Yeah.
Yep.
That's why we chose that, and it's just very, very supportive. And yeah. So, and then the flavoring, the color comes from. We actually hired a flavor chemist. She's a PhD in flavor chemistry. That is a thing, and so we hire her. So how we do the flavoring in here is if you think of like vanilla beans, let's say you were to just take beans and kind of grind them in like you think of like a coffee maker, and you're grinding them away. There's a little bit of sort of
Dust
that comes out. That essence is what we grab. That's the flavor. So no synthetic flavorings in our products. That's how we flavor. Same thing with the cacao beans. That's how you get the chocolate in there. So it's going to be as natural and as can be.
Yeah, it's a nice process.
Palatable too. But yeah, the flavoring is important.
What if somebody is sensitive palate wise? How tasty would doing the detox be?
Well, I'll tell you that if you do have an issue with flavor, we always do a money back guarantee. Okay. So if you're not happy with the flavor, just let me know. I think it's great. French vanilla across the country is the most popular. Chocolate though is really good too.
I like chocolate.
It's everyone's. We did it. That's why we hired the flavor chemist, because we're like, okay, we've got to detox people, so we got to put some important things in there, but we also have to make sure it tastes good. So I think it's very palatable.
I should clarify, I like dark chocolate.
Oh, yeah. The high nutrient chocolate.
Yeah, one of the things we've done at the house is like have the little chocolate chip morsels, like if you just need a little snack.
Yep.
And my wife always gets the big ones. And I like the big ones because they only need like 2 or 3.
Yeah.
And they're always dark chocolate, so it's really nice. Anything else? Like, is there any science you want to cover? Anything else?
I think just, if you are considering doing a detox or a cleanse, just make sure, it's very, very important. We were talking about earlier, toxins are stored in your fat cells, and if they're not able to move through the 3 phases of biotransformation properly, they will recirculate back in your body. That is very toxic. After the toxin goes through the first phase, it has a different molecular form. It turns into something called an intermediary metabolite. That is very toxic, more toxic than your original toxin. If it cannot get through the second and third phases, guess what makes your second and third phases work? Nutrients, B vitamins, potassium. There are different things that help those phases work, but because most people are deficient in those nutrients, that's what happens.
You get stuck.
You get stuck. And
then you start feeling bad.
Yep. And then if you have a SNP where you don't, that first phase doesn't work well, then you're really just going to struggle to detoxify. So our science team put this detox kit together to very purposely to make sure that we really get the second and third phases kind of going and ready to go before we hit on the first, so that you don't feel as sick during
Which would
the process.
be what you're saying there is the deficiencies.
Yeah.
Second and third phase.
Yeah. We want to really hit those up.
And those supplements come with this?
Yes.
Okay.
So the supplements in here are going to support all 3 phases of your liver detoxification pathways, the enzymes and all of that, in addition to some mitochondria support, because there are like 15,000 mitochondria in one cell in your in your liver. There's 5,000 in your heart in one cell in your liver. Why is that? Your mitochondria are the powerhouse of your cell, and there's so much activity that happens in your liver. So back to the gentleman who said, hey, someone, when you said a patient was like, why do I need to take a liver cleanse if my liver is doing it? Yeah. Well, how are your mitochondria doing in your liver? Because at the age of 35, they decline in function, which leads to a lot of fatigue and other things. So this is going to support the mitochondria inside of your liver so that your liver can do its thing on its own with that too. So it's supporting the proper phases of detoxification in the right manner, as well as supporting your mitochondria, so that you have a really good experience.
Nice.
So,
Good. Well, do you have anything else you want to add before we wrap it up today?
I don't think so. Thank you for having me.
Oh, man. Thank you so much for agreeing to come and give us a good understanding of some of this liver detox. I love it. I like learning. This is definitely something that could help a lot of my patients.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you taking some time and sitting in the studio with me. So with that, we're going to sign off. Okay. Thank you again. I really appreciate it. And we could maybe plan another one 3 months, 6 months down the road, do some other stuff.
Sounds good.
All right, guys. Thank you for listening. Have a great weekend.